From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, we're open Indy. Why business owners say they are committed to expansion in the midst of a pandemic. And they are not the only ones taking a leap of faith. Another business opening a new location this week. How creativity helped them get through these last months. Chris.
Top of our lineup, more companies are making antimicrobial masks. We're getting answers on whether you actually need one. And one school believes it has found a path for others nationwide to return to in-person learning. How test kit vending machines are part of this plan. And the question, how are you doing? It has taken on a deeper meaning nearly a year into this pandemic. One woman's story is giving us new perspective on what the restaurant industry is facing.
First at 5:30, this pandemic has taken a toll on many restaurants and businesses, but there are also still many success stories. We Are Open Indy is WRTV's effort to highlight places still open to serve you. And today marked the official opening of a second I Heart Mac and Cheese location in central Indiana. The original location is in Westfield. Now this latest addition is located on 10th Street and Indiana Avenue. That's just down the street from IUPUI. Owners Elizabeth and Matthew Griffin say expanding during a pandemic sends a message to the community.
Small business is still alive. I mean, small business thrives. Small business keeps the community, the country going. And, you know, we're in it for the long haul.
Today, the Indy Chamber of Commerce marked the occasion with a ribbon cutting, and here's what they had to say.
Obviously, small business is trying to get back to business. They're hurting right now. But the energy level associated with entrepreneurs and a startup such as this is really good for the community. It's good for business, and everyone wins.
The first person in line got a year's worth of free mac and cheese from the restaurant. That lucky guy waited 6 hours to be the winner.
I love mac and cheese, and so does my girlfriend, and my friends do too. So just having it for a year, I mean, not having to pay for it, that's great.
Lucky guy. And this business is already giving back to the community. 10% of all proceeds from today's sales will go towards a foundation for Riley Hospital for Children at IU Health. Already the owners have hired 26 new employees, and they still need to hire more. To contact I Heart Mac and Cheese, go to our website, WRTV.com. Also hosting a grand opening this week, Hotel Tango Zionsville. The local distillery's tasting room near 106th Street and Zionsville Road is set to open on Thursday. They held a soft opening last night. Hotel Tango management tells me they were able to survive the past year with local support from the community and getting creative with their products and sales.
I think we're pretty fortunate for the fact that we make our own spirits and we're a distillery. That gives us an advantage that unfortunately a lot of great restaurants in the city were not afforded, and it kind of helped push us through the pandemic between hand sanitizer operations, which we were very involved in. You know, it just helps when you have a product to sell versus trying to cut down to 50% capacity and still make it work. Retail's a big key to kind of staying open amidst a pandemic.
They were also able to get by with the financial aid from the Small Business Administration's PPP. The new location has allowed them to hire on more staff, and they are still hiring. Head to our website at WRTV.com and check out this story if you are interested in applying. Again, Hotel Tango's new Zionsville location will open tomorrow. Kyle.
So great to see those small business success stories. And you know, our weather fairly successful today as we had temperatures again in the 40s. Not bad at all for January. Yeah, that veil of cloud cover moving back in after we had some sunshine earlier in the day. Right now, our temperature coming in at 45 degrees for you downtown, 46 in Bloomington and Crawfordsville at 43 degrees. Winds have been fairly light, a little breezy at times, but there you can see the clouds taking over once again. Some light returns across northeastern portion of the state, but I don't think we're going to see anything here in central Indiana. We look back to the north and west, and here's a weather system in the Dakotas that will actually be sliding our way as we go through about 24 hours from now or so to bring in a little wet weather to central Indiana. As far as this evening, though, just the cloud cover out there, and that keeps our temperatures from really tumbling too much here. Upper 30s for you at 9 o'clock. We're at 37 at midnight, and as we go into the overnight hours, we'll have a little bit of clearing of those skies and temperatures temperatures that will start off your Thursday around 30 degrees out there, 31 in Columbus. Those rain chances, though, as we go into Thursday afternoon and evening, start to rise. We'll talk about how much wet weather is coming our way and some snow chances in just a bit. Chris?
Airbnb is taking its own precautions ahead of Inauguration Day. It's canceling and blocking reservations in Washington, D.C. during the week of the inauguration. Guests who already reserved a place will receive a full refund, and hosts will be reimbursed with the money they would have earned from those reservations. The inaugural committee will not be hosting any in-person activities, and that includes the inaugural ball. Instead, it's producing a TV special for that night. It'll be hosted by Tom Hanks and Demi Lovato. Justin Timberlake and Bon Jovi will perform. They'll also honor American heroes. Well, more businesses can start applying for a Paycheck Protection Program loan starting today. It's opening up to include businesses that would be receiving the loan for a second time. Now, the loan program started on Monday with a focus on getting money to small businesses in underserved communities. Many of them had a hard time getting a loan during the previous round of PPP, or they may not have even applied. Now, the Small Business Administration tried to give those businesses priority this time by only letting community financial institutions that typically serve these communities make loans first.
We appreciate that exclusive window for those first couple of days. I think, honestly, it was not something that many of us could take full advantage of.
Michael Rappaport with Opportunity Fund, a community development financial institution. He says they didn't have a lot of time to prepare because they first received guidance about the new requirements for the loans last Wednesday. Then they got the actual loan application on Friday for the program that started on Monday. This time around, lawmakers have carved out $12 billion specifically for minority-owned businesses.
Allocations that have been set aside this time around will help some of the smaller borrowers get loans when they otherwise wouldn't have the first time.
Now, if you are a small business applying for a second PPP loan, he says you need to make sure you have your paperwork that proves you had a 25% decrease in revenue. That can be quarterly bank statements or having just the revenue section of your 2020 tax return ready. There are additional fraud checks now for PPP loans, which are expected to take about 48 hours. That means you should have your money 3 to 4 days after getting everything into the system. The Small Business Administration expects the $284 billion available to be enough to cover the demand. Now, next in our lineup, more companies are making antimicrobial masks. We're getting answers on whether you actually need them.
AdviseIndy.com.
A year ago, if you saw someone in a mask, it'd be a little unusual, but today they are now as common as wearing shoes. And fashion brands are not only taking notice, they're also taking things a step further by creating masks that are supposedly designed to fight coronavirus. Well, for example, Under Armour uses antimicrobial property in its masks. It's made by a Swedish company, HiQ. The company says its V-Block technology is effective in combating the virus, but those tests have not been confirmed. Burberry uses the same antimicrobial technology as Under Armour, and Diesel's not only not making masks, but it's actually selling jeans that supposedly fight viruses. Technology is called Viral Off and is claimed to physically halt 99% of viral activity. Diesel claims the technology uses key proteins to fight off the virus. Experts in infection prevention point out that COVID comes from a virus. Antimicrobial technology won't necessarily help fight it. There's also not enough research to know if a protein can fight off COVID. Doctors are concerned that claims about antimicrobial technology could create a false sense of security. Instead, experts say people should look for other things when it comes to picking out a mask.
Sometimes they're double or even you'll see triple layered masks. So those in general are just going to be a thicker mask that's going to prevent more from coming your way and more from leaving you as the wearer.
Something else worth remembering is to regularly wash your mask. Doctors remind people that wearing any mask is better than not wearing one at all. But still ahead in our lineup, one school thinks it's found a path for others nationwide to return to in-person learning. How test kit vending machines and closely watching each building's wastewater are part of the plan.
Right now.
As students across the country learn behind a screen, the university hopes to model the way in bringing students back to campus safely. Amanda Brandeis looks at the innovations some students are already using to take control of their health.
From a distance, this college courtyard looks no different than most. But take a closer look at the vending machine, and you'll see it's very different.
So I'm just gonna scan the test kit.
Instead of chips and candy, it's dispensing free COVID-19 test kits to students like Carly Schulz.
I think it reduces a lot of the shame that people have around getting tested, because it kind of assumes that you're having symptoms, which isn't true most of the time.
Spread across campus, they're part of a multi-layered plan to bring students back to campus.
Next step is to put it in the Dropbox, and then...
We could not quite afford to just shut everything down.
Pradeep Khosla, chancellor of the University of California at San Diego, says to test students weekly, they had to make the process easy and convenient.
If you have to schedule your testing every week, things fall apart.
After dropping off the kit, students get results within 24 hours. In the first week, campus labs processed over 8,000 tests.
Sitting and knowing that you don't have coronavirus and spreading it to all my elderly neighbors is dope.
The second part of the strategy was this notion of surveillance. Can we predict what's happening?
So they created a wastewater detection program.
Knew that the virus was shed in fecal matter 3 to 5 days before it affected you physically.
The university shared these photos of samplers being installed across campus. They're monitoring educational and residential buildings. Some receive samples from several buildings.
Lately, it's been detecting COVID every day.
Right now, about 6% of students have classes in person. Anyone in a building where the virus is detected in wastewater gets a notification they've been exposed. The plan also works to normalize behaviors that help stop the spread.
Bad behavior on the part of a human being allows a pandemic to propagate.
400 student health ambassadors reward good behaviors on campus, like giving $5 Starbucks gift cards to students seen wearing a mask.
Come fall, left to me, I would love to open back near normal. It would not be 100% the same. It might be 90% the same, but that's my plan.
While measures like the vending machines require some logistical hurdles, Khosla believes their program could be replicated at colleges nationwide.
Anybody who thinks that we can help them in any way, they should feel free to approach us. We are able, capable, and willing.
In San Diego, I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
Good evening to you, Putnam County and Greencastle. You can see we got the veil of cloud cover back in there, and I think we may have some lower clouds overnight, but a south breeze around 10 miles per hour should really keep us from very foggy conditions. Right now, we've got mostly cloudy skies in downtown. There's that southwest breeze at 14 miles per hour. Also between 10 and 15 mile per hour wind for you in Bloomington at 46 and 44 right now in Lafayette. So it feels a little bit cooler than that with that breeze. Tomorrow morning, we'll start off with temperatures right around 30. Another fairly gray day for us. So the clouds are going to be returning to the area and kind of locked in place here, but temperatures still not bad as we make our way back into the 40s. And as we get into tomorrow evening, we'll have the chance for a few scattered rain showers. But tomorrow afternoon, 44 in Lafayette, 44 in Indianapolis. We made it to 48 this afternoon, so another above average day. As we look at TrueCast, though, 5:30 tomorrow evening, there we start to see some of that rain moving on in. It should be fairly quick moving. And as we get into tomorrow night, we may see a little bit of a wintry mix. I don't think it's going to be of consequence for us. And there you can see as far as rain potential with that system, generally under 1/10 of an inch of wet weather coming our way. But the pattern's going to get a little more active as we do look ahead toward Friday morning. You can see an area of some snow showers that will be moving through, mainly dry on Saturday, and then on Sunday, possibly some light snow accumulations with another system. So there's a look at that 7-day planning forecast. Temperatures cooling back to highs in the 30s this weekend, and then we're back above average around 40 degrees Tuesday and Wednesday.
COVID-19 pneumonia lasts longer and causes more damage to lung tissue than typical pneumonia. Usher Qureshi's looking at how new research examining why will help scientists develop treatments they hope will eventually make COVID-19 no worse than the common cold.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, scientists have been trying to figure out why coronavirus is so destructive to the lungs.
Pneumonia that lands people in the ICU on life support does tend to last longer than pneumonias caused by other types of bugs.
Dr. Ben Singer is an assistant professor of pulmonary and critical care medicine at Northwestern. The hospital provided this video of Dr. Singer. He says viral pneumonia like that found in the flu is like a burst of fire where the lungs are inflamed for a short period of time.
The immune response to COVID pneumonia is much more like kind of a slow burn in the lungs, where people are exposed to inflammation over a long period of time, and that's where we see this great degree of damage.
The first of its kind study compared fluid collected from the lungs of COVID-19 ICU patients with that of pneumonia patients from before the pandemic.
Our study is just the tip of the iceberg in trying to understand the differences between patients that determine who is going to go on to get better and, unfortunately, who doesn't.
It's why scientists are looking at data like this to develop new experimental drugs to help control the wildfire-like inflammation sparked by coronavirus in the lungs.
Actually looking at the molecules and the different substances that are dysregulated in COVID-19 has given us some really promising leads for targets to study in drug trials.
Dr. Singer says much like the flu, COVID-19 is unlikely to ever go away completely, even after mass vaccinations, which is why he says it's critical to understand how to treat it long term.
We are learning new ways to care for patients with severe pneumonia largely, and pandemics come over time, right? And so I hope that what we learned from this pandemic will allow us to be better prepared for the next pandemic of a deadly virus.
In Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
Usher, thank you. And as we've learned with COVID vaccines, medical trials, volunteers are critical. While there's no cure yet for other diseases like Alzheimer's, we are learning that clinical trials may be the best hope right now. This week, pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly released promising results of an experimental drug used to treat Alzheimer's. It found to slow decline in memory by 32% after a year and a half. Now, this was tested in people showing early symptoms of Alzheimer's. It was a small phase 2 trial, and now Eli Lilly is looking for hundreds of more volunteers to do further testing.
It's really encouraging to see trials like this communicated to the general public, because it really shows that we are making progress in this field. Step by step, every time we do this work, we're learning something new every day.
The Alzheimer's Association is encouraged by the findings of how the study and by how the trials themselves are developing. They emphasize that more people and participation are needed to move forward with this type of research.
They may also involve a study partner, someone that can participate in the trial with you. They may involve that you go to a place to receive cognitive testing or treatment.
Alzheimer's research trials aren't just for people living with the disease. They need healthy volunteers as well, even caregivers. The Alzheimer's Association has a tool to help match people with trials near them. There are hundreds for Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. The site is alz.org/trial-match. Well, people whose income has been affected during the pandemic are facing another challenge. Many of them are having to pay higher fees on their checking accounts. According to Bankrate, communities of color are experiencing an even bigger hit. Checking account holders who are white are paying less than $5 a month in fees on average. Black and Hispanic account holders are paying more than twice as much, about $12 to $14 a month. Now, finally, in our lineup, the question, how are you doing? It has taken on a deeper meaning. One woman's story is giving us a new perspective on what the restaurant industry is facing.
Zero heartburn.
This week, we're taking a deep breath and asking a variety of people in our communities one simple question: how are you doing? Today, our Chris Conti shares the story of a woman who expected her life to change for the better last year. Instead, her dream ended. But she says that she is doing well enough to not give up.
How are you doing?
It's a loaded question for anyone in restaurants.
If Camilla Marcus could turn back time, there's not much she would do differently. She loved opening her own restaurant in Manhattan 3 years ago, a lifelong dream achieved at age 35.
There's a lot of built-up memories and a lot of attachment.
A friend documented the final hours of Westbourne's brick-and-mortar existence. Camila and her staff had suddenly joined the millions of Americans who'd lost their jobs because of COVID.
We're being displaced. We're being left without a paddle.
Perhaps no industry has been hit harder by the pandemic than restaurants. 1 in 5 workers unemployed right now are in the service industry.
We're dominating job losses month after month after month through this crisis, and the ability to help, the Restaurants Act, continues to be refused to be passed.
Answering that question, how are you doing, isn't easy for Camila, especially with a family to provide for.
It's a lot on your heart, on your shoulders, and something that's on your mind 24/7.
She's out of work, and so are the 30 employees who once worked at her restaurant, none of whom have been able to find a job.
Where are they getting alternative jobs? Who's hiring right now? You know, let alone when was the last time anyone hired someone without a college education who needed a fresh start?
I'm Chris Conti.
Chris, thank you. When a tornado tore through this Midwest town, there was not a question about whether they would rebuild, but they did it differently than many other cities who have faced disaster. They did it green, as in using new technology that uses less energy. Tomorrow, I'll show you how they did it and the lessons they learned about not going too far.
The gray skies of January, a little easier to handle with temperatures like this coming our way tomorrow. We'll start off around 30 degrees, back into the 40s tomorrow afternoon, and it's really tomorrow evening that we'll see a few light rain showers across the area. Then some colder air moving in, few snow showers there on Friday. Could see some light accumulations on Sunday, but temperatures rebounding as we go toward the middle of next week. Highs again around 40. Thanks for joining us at 5:30.